Welcome to the Night Shadows channel. Get ready to dive into a new horror story. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and let your mind wander through the darkest corners of imagination. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our daily stories. Now, take a deep breath and step into the story, if you dare. A rhythmic reminder of the darkness that surrounded them. Each drop felt like a countdown, heightening her sense of urgency. Suddenly, a low growl reverberated through the cave, sending shivers coursing through the group. Clara exchanged worried glances with Tomas, his face paling. "What was that?" he whispered, his eyes darting around, searching the shadows for the source of the sound. "I don't know," Clara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to keep moving." The path ahead twisted and turned, a labyrinth of stone that seemed to lead them deeper into the heart of the cave. With every step, Clara could feel the weight of the darkness pressing in on them, as if it were a living entity, eager to consume them. As they rounded a bend, the cave opened into a vast chamber, illuminated by an ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Clara's breath caught in her throat at the sight. Intricate symbols were etched into the stone, pulsating with a strange energy. The atmosphere shifted, a palpable tension hanging in the air, and Clara instinctively knew they had stumbled upon something significant. "Look at those markings," Ms. Elena said, her voice filled with awe. "They appear ancient, perhaps a warning." Clara stepped closer, her heart racing as she traced the symbols with her fingers. "They seem to tell a story," she murmured, reading the strange patterns. "A battle between light and dark, a sacrifice." Suddenly, the growl returned, louder and more menacing. The shadows around them began to shift, coalescing into a form that emerged from the depths of the cave. Clara's heart raced as she recognized the figure that stepped forward, a tall, gaunt silhouette, its eyes glowing with a predatory hunger. "It's here," Tomas gasped, fear etched on his face. "We need to get out. Now!" But Clara couldn't move. She felt rooted to the spot, an inexplicable force pulling her toward the creature. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We can't run. We have to stand our ground." The figure approached, its presence overwhelming, a dark vortex of fear and despair. Clara could feel her heartbeat echoing in her ears, drowning out the growl that resonated from the creature. It towered over them, its form shifting and twisting, an embodiment of their collective fears. "Clara," Ms. Elena's voice cut through the haze. "We need to confront it together. Remember the council, we shared our fears. Now we must face them." The creature paused, its gaze piercing through Clara's defenses. She felt its energy probing her mind, unraveling her thoughts, laying bare her insecurities. She could see the faces of her friends behind her, their fears manifesting in the creature's form, reflecting their deepest vulnerabilities. Together, Clara urged, her voice steadying as she took a step forward. "We are stronger than our fears." The villagers rallied, stepping beside her. "We are not afraid," Clara shouted, her voice echoing in the chamber. "We stand united." As if summoned by their declaration, a light began to emanate from their bodies, slowly pushing back the darkness. Clara felt the warmth of her friend's presence beside her, their fears intertwining with her own, forming a protective barrier against the darkness. The creature recoiled, its growl morphing into a shriek of rage as the light intensified. Clara's heart surged with hope. They were pushing it back. But the darkness fought back, tendrils reaching out to pull them into its abyss. "We must not waver," Ms. Elena called out. "Focus on your strength." Clara closed her eyes, recalling the fears she had shared with the villagers, the fear of failure, of loss, of not being enough. She allowed those emotions to surface, acknowledging them for what they were, pieces of herself that could not be ignored. "Feel the strength in vulnerability," Clara shouted, feeling a surge of energy course through her. "We are not defined by our fears." With one final, resounding roar, the creature lashed out, but the collective light of the villagers enveloped it, pushing it toward the chamber's entrance. The walls began to shake, the cave itself reacting to their confrontation. As the darkness recoiled, Clara opened her eyes to see the creature dissolving, its form breaking apart like wisps of smoke in the wind. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a sense of freedom and empowerment. Breathless and trembling, Clara looked around at her friends, who were equally stunned but exhilarated. They had faced the darkness together and emerged victorious, their fears no longer shackles but stepping stones towards strength. But as they began to regroup, Clara noticed something strange, a flicker of shadow in the corner of her vision. She turned to see another figure emerging from the depths of the cave, its presence lingering like an unfinished note in a haunting melody. The darkness had not been vanquished. It had only retreated, and Clara could feel the air thrum with the promise of an even greater challenge to come. As the echoes of their victory reverberated within the cave, Clara felt an unsettling shift in the atmosphere. The air thickened, becoming suffocating, as if the very walls of stone were closing in on them. She glanced at Tomas, who was visibly shaken, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped the torch. The glow flickered ominously, casting long shadows that twisted like tendrils reaching for them. "Did you see that?" he whispered, his eyes darting around, searching for the lingering darkness. There was something else, something waiting. Clara nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She could sense it too, an oppressive presence that loomed just beyond the reach of their light, a shadow that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was as if the cave itself was holding its breath, waiting for the moment they would let their guard down. "Ms. Elena," Clara called, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "We need to be cautious. I felt something else down here." The old woman nodded, her brow furrowed with concern. "We must not underestimate the darkness. It's clever and it adapts. We've only seen a fraction of its true nature." The villagers huddled closer together, their faces a mixture of determination and fear. Clara could see the doubt creeping into their eyes, the lingering shadows of their past experiences with the entity they had just confronted. But she also saw a flicker of hope, a resilience that had emerged from their shared struggle. "We need to move," Clara urged, her voice steady. "We can't linger here. If that creature was a manifestation of our fears, then whatever lurks deeper in this cave may be something far more dangerous." With a collective nod, the group pressed onward, their footsteps echoing against the stone. As they ventured deeper into the cave, the light from the torch flickered violently, illuminating the intricate carvings that adorned the walls. Clara's pulse quickened as she studied the symbols. They depicted a series of battles, each one more ferocious than the last, a history etched in stone that told of a time when darkness threatened to engulf everything. "Look at this," Tomas said, pointing to a particularly detailed carving. "It's like a warning, a prophecy of sorts." Clara leaned closer, tracing the lines with her fingertips. "These figures, they look familiar." The realization struck her like a jolt of electricity. "They're us. The villagers, our ancestors must have faced this darkness too.